Nice thing about this is we're not live, so if we fuck up, we can just do a bunch of different takes.
Sure.
Make sure you bleep out the part where I say fuck, because then we'll get demonetized. Oh wait, we're not monetized. Who
That's a
cares?
lot of
Shit.
that's a lot of fucking work.
Yeah. Fuck, dude. I fucking apologize. Cause you're the editor. I just come on and just blah blah boo, and then you gotta edit all of that. That sucks for you.
Yeah.
All right, let's
So
start this
thanks.
bitch. All right, let's start in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hey everybody, welcome back to a rockin' new episode of Dan. It took me forever to pull out of my brain. Just welcome back to Speak Freely. I am of course Mr. Freely along with Mr. Speak. Kuno, how are you?
I'm good. I'm rocking. Apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean let's not beat around the bush. We are doing a Sum 41 bracket. We are very excited. We've been talking about doing a music bracket, so we've done like movie brackets and stuff like that, but I'm very excited to do music brackets. And of course, when I thought about music brackets, there's only one group of people I really thought that would be worthy of this, and all but one responded to this. He is a part of the PJCN YouTube channel, or as we affectionately call it, Pajukin. He is the one and only, the handsomest of men, Dan Nye. Dan, welcome to the show.
Stop. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll take all the accolades. As even though I was the one who was like, oh yeah, I'll totally jump on a sub 41 bracket. That sounds like a lot
Yeah.
of fun.
Surprisingly, very quiet after I posted that in the chat.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. Where I'm like anyone else, crickets? Okay, sure. Like,
It was
but
it was literal crickets.
it was a little, but it's a lot of fun. Actually, they were the second concert I ever went to was in Cleveland, and it was like one of the radio stations there. It was called A Not So Silent Night, and the order of the bands from opening. I remember at the very last minute they added Hoobastank, and so Hoobastank was the very
Ooh.
first opener.
Yes.
So it went Hoobastank, Pressure 4-5, Edema, Sum 41, 311, and Blink 182 headlined.
Wow.
It was a crazy
What a-
concert.
What a show. You must have been
Whoa.
so tired and dehydrated after that.
Well, 16-year-old me was very happy. And we were sitting in we weren't like in the pit just because it was at like one of those big basketball arenas. So we were back in the stands. We were sitting down, and it was three of us. And I do remember there was a pungent smell of God's lettuce that came on during 311's set.
Of course there was.
Of course there was.
Hmm.
And both of my friends went, oh, what is that smell? And I just kind of looked around and I was like, what? And they were like, you don't smell that? And I was like, no, apparently I was immune and I just didn't smell anything when they started
Nice.
playing.
Dude,
But I do
that-
I also remember Sum 41, they tried to get two girls to come up on stage and make out, and it didn't work at all.
that's probably the best part of that show. It's just like, no, well, here's Fat Lip. Do 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 do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not in Ohio.
Not in Cleveland, Ohio, apparently.
Yeah, no, they don't get too
Yes.
crazy there. That
Well-
reminds me. Every time I go to practice too, it's just like, I go to like a practice warehouse, which all just practice rooms and shit like that for bands. And every time I walk in, it's just that immediate punch in the nose of just like skunky. You know what I'm saying? It's just like,
Yeah.
it's like,
You're like, oh, I'm here.
That's right. There's a bunch of bands here. That makes sense. It's just, yeah, but
Just follow your nose. Like 2 blocks away, you can find it.
yeah, I know. It's like, where's the band practicing? Just follow the weed smell. Eventually,
Yeah.
you'll get there, and inevitably, you do.
But yeah, sure.
So we
Nice.
are
David,
talking.
what's your history?
For
My history with Sum 41, or
Your history
Dan's?
with Sum 41? Yeah. No, yours.
Oh,
You got
oh.
a little story from Dan.
that's what, dude. That's why he's the co-host, man. I was just gonna jump into it, but he's
right.
like, he's warming up the audience. I'm just trying to go in raw. He's like, no, man, we got a little foreplay.
Yeah.
Just a little. I mean, we were talking about it before we went live, right? It was I mean, growing up in high school, that's when the band became famous, right? When we were in high school, like Fat Lip was playing all over the radio, all over TV, and then when they released In Too Deep, it was all over the place as well. And it was just like, oh, these guys are kind of fun. They're kind of goofy, right? initially, like, I wasn't crazy into them at first because I was like at that stage where I also discovered metal at the time. So I developed like that bullshit elitist attitude of like, this is fucking metal, bro. This sucks. Blah, 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 blah. But then like I graduated, I chilled out a little bit, and then the album that did it for me was Chuck. Like, and I remember me and Brian especially would bond a lot over it. Just drive around listening to that album from top to bottom. I love that album so much. So that was kind of my history with it. Brian, what's your history with Sum 41?
Yeah, Sum 41 is actually the first CD I bought with my own money.
Whoa.
Was it that Chuck
Yeah.
album?
No, it was
Oh.
the All Killer No
All
Filler.
Killer No Filler?
Yeah, it's the first one I bought, and so that's the one with like Fat Lip and In Too Deep, and like Motivation was
Yep.
on repeat all the time on my little like Sony like CD player, where you, like the repeat button is just like only has one setting, either on or off.
Yeah.
And
Oh, no. Oh, there he is.
Oh.
We
yeah,
lost
and
him
then
for a second.
I've seen them live a handful of times, maybe 3 times. It's always been fun. They know how to put on a show.
I've never seen Sum 41 live, and I've been to like a Warp Tour when they were playing, but there's always like another band playing that I wanted to see more than Sum. So I've heard them in the background, but I've never like directly seen them live. So that's one I got to get on, hopefully soon.
I think there was that concert. I saw them like one of my first concerts ever, and then I remember they did a great. I can't remember if it was like the 20 year or the 15. Like some like MTV was like celebrating themselves, and I remember Sum 41 played a medley, and they started off playing Fat Lip, and then they slowly went into and they started doing a bunch of different songs, and they went into Beastie Boys, and they went into No Sleep Till Brooklyn, and like they pull out Tommy Lee, and Tommy Lee starts playing drums with them too, and then they go into Shout at the Devil, and then they bring out you'll know his name, Dave. What's the lead singer's name from Judas Priest?
Rob Halford.
Yeah, they bring out Rob Halford, and
Yeah.
then they do You Got Another Thing Coming, and that's how they end the medley. Like, it's on YouTube. It's not, unfortunately, it's not in HD, but it's a lot of fun to watch. I remember seeing that growing
That
up
reminds
too.
me. That reminds me too.
Nice.
The MTV did like they used to have like that icon show where they would celebrate a
Yeah.
band, and they were celebrating Metallica at the time, and they came out and did like a medley of like Metallica songs, and I was like, I think that was a turning point for me because again, metal and then Metallica and then like Sum 41. I heard him do it, and they were pretty faithful to the songs and the way they interweave like certain sections of like other songs. I was like, oh, that's fucking. You know what? These guys are all right.
Well, and going on what you said earlier, like I feel like everybody gets that kind of possessive, like, the music I listen to is the best music. I think
Yeah.
everybody in high school thinks that. So
Yeah, I think so too. I think
Mhm.
yeah, because you're just a young kid, right? It's something you discovered, and it's like at that time you're like at that age where like the things you like are part of you rather than just being the things you like. You know what I mean? Like they're not you
yeah,
as a
you
person.
you hold on to it so tightly where it's like, this is my identity now, and how dare you
Yeah,
question my identity, even though
yeah,
it's music and 4 bands that I listen to on repeat.
yeah. And like
Right.
luckily, as we get older, we realize, oh, all music has merits.
Yeah, and you have to kind of unlearn it. I was going to say, I think the first band I bought, this is a really nerdy thing, and you'll appreciate it. I think it was Aaron Copland, the first CD I bought.
Really? All of Aaron Copland's greatest hits.
No, it was the Fanfare for the Common Man, whatever like CD had it. There were only like 5 or 6 tracks on it.
Yeah. Oh,
That was in like second grade.
wow. All right. If we're talking first CDs, my first CD is very embarrassing because it was allowance
Spice
money.
Girls.
Pretty close.
Britney Spears.
Oh,
It was Backstreet Boys. Or
Right.
it was a
Nice.
CD. It was a CD with shit. Where the one where they're dressed like monsters. What the fuck is it? Backstreet's Back. That's what it was.
There you go. That's the one I was going to guess, but I didn't know if that was actually the name of the CD.
I think it was just self-titled. I don't remember. But that was like the first CD I bought, quote unquote, but the first actual like album I bought where like money I earned with like cash I bought, I'm pretty sure was like a Megadeth CD.
Nice.
So, I mean, we grow up and then we don't. So, Anyways, Brian, any
Yes.
any other stuff before we get into it?
Uh, no. I think everyone's ready.
All right, I'm ready to hate the two of you because it's about to get. I already hate one of you. You can guess which one it is.
It's totally me.
Is it though?
I don't know.
No, it's the guy who made the bracket.
It's the guy who made the bracket. No, it's me. I hate myself. See, you both
Oh.
were wrong.
Oh, there's no room for
Well, now
that.
I'm just kidding. It was a dumb joke.
yes.
But you know what's
All
not
right.
dumb? This bracket. Holy crap.
Man,
Brian, take us through.
Yeah. So we have our playing match with the Pieces versus Screaming Bloody Murder.
Mm,
And then we got the winner of that will play against Still Waiting. Then we got Fat Lip versus We're All to Blame. The Hell Song versus 88. In Too Deep versus Makes No Difference.
I already discussed this. There's one that's going to be very hard for me, but I think it's only fair that we start with the play-in, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
sure. But before we go into that, are there any songs you want to highlight that are not on the bracket?
Ooh.
Surprisingly, let me see.
These are all your favorite songs right here. Got
These
it.
are all my favorites. I mean, well, all right. The way we did this, right? We originally were gonna have someone else on, but unfortunately they had a scheduling conflict. But their song is still on here, and then we were gonna put our top favorite songs against what Spotify or like Apple Music's top 5 songs would have been, top 5, top 4.
Gotcha.
And for the most part, both Spotify and Apple do number 1, number 2 are Fat Lip and Into Deep. That's always like number 1, number 2. Number 3 is like Pieces. And then number 4, number 5 tends to vary from like Still Waiting and Hell Song, or maybe
We're All to Blame, I think, is on the iTunes. Something
I
like
think
that.
we're all to blame's like number 6 on iTunes or something like that. It interchanges a little bit, but it's usually safe to say Still Waiting, Into Deep, Fat Lip, Hell Song, and Pieces are in the top 6 usually. So those are all there. I mean, personally, like I mentioned before, my favorite album is Chuck. Like, I think that is one of their CDs where like if I really sit down and I want to listen, I can get through it. You know what I mean? It's not like I gotta skip that song. It's like it's the first album to me too. This is where I started leaning towards being pro Sum 41. It's the first album where I really feel like they leaned more into those metal tendencies
They
a
go
lot
full
more.
metal. Oh yeah.
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 So, and you can clearly, I mean, We're All to Blame has bits and pieces of it, but the one song that's like clearly metal is like The Bitter End. That one's just straight up thrash, which I thought was very interesting. But they've always kind of had little like tendencies toward it, even though like maybe rhythmically they wouldn't do it. Like, for example, throwing a solo in like a punk rock song, which usually you wouldn't hear, but they would do it. Stuff
So
like that.
I do have a question then, Biscuits, and I hope you don't mind if I refer to you as Biscuits, just because it's my favorite way to refer to you.
No, it's fine. That's what the B stands for.
Okay. So then, how heartbroken were you after Chuck came out, and then
Underclass Hero?
and then Brown Sound left the band, and then
Yeah.
Underclass Hero came out?
I don't like Underclass. I legitimately tried like 3 times to listen to that album. I'm just like, I don't. There's
Weird.
nothing.
So like weirdly, I listened to that album a lot when it came out, and I think it's because I didn't give Chuck the due it deserved way back when. Because you're right, Chuck is a fantastic album, but Underclass Hero, like it feels like that album should have came earlier. Like it feels like that
Yeah.
album should have came after All Killer No Filler, and it would have fit right in. And then
Yeah.
it kind of gets progressively harder. Because I hadn't heard the 2 new ones. So I listened to those today before our show, and I was like, ooh, I like both of these a lot. So if you haven't listened to Sum 41 lately, like I hadn't, because the last one I really spent any time with was Screaming Bloody Murder. And I like that album a lot too. So it's one of those things like I need to go back and revisit pretty much everything that they've done.
Yeah.
But you were really torn up that it was like, Underclass Hero, what a letdown.
I think I think like sonically, like just musically, it coming off of Chuck, it was like you said, right? Like if this would have came out after All Killer No Filler would have made sense, but coming off of Chuck, it was like it felt to me musically like regression rather than progression. Sonically,
Yeah.
but then I think what really hurts it too is like at that time too they kind of had somewhat of a falling out and like Derek would say like I never wanted to do the metal stuff. Like Underclass Hero is completely what I've wanted to do. That metal stuff's just not me and blah blah blah. And
Hmm.
it was kind of like it was kind of weird. And then their guitarist went off to do, for lack of a better term, reggae metal, and it
What is that?
exactly. You need to go listen to it. If you ever, it's so hard to find his album. It's weird, man. It's like
That sounds weird.
it. I mean, I don't
That's
know if I can say it works, but I also can't say it doesn't work.
like I'm trying to think of like the juxtaposition of those two terms, like where they're, from a musical point of view, they're just like
Com-
inherently so they're
yeah,
opposites. They're polar
yeah.
opposites.
So the way he would do it, and like I have vague memories of it because I remember
It's like
not
classical techno, you know what I mean?
yeah, it's like rhythmically they would interchange. So rhythmically they do like reggae rhythms, right? But with distorted guitars, and then they would
Okay.
switch it where it'd be like, it's just odd, dude. If you can find it,
And that
it's
was Browntown's album, or that was the other
yeah,
guitarist? That was Browntown's? Okay.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, so, um, I need to look it up, but we'll try to do like a deep dive after the recording of the episode. But
Yeah.
that era for me in Sum 41's history really that's when I had a falling out myself with the band. I was just like, all right, well, if this is what they're gonna do, great, but I don't really care. And then Derek had a lot of drama happening publicly, and it was kind of like it just kind of like so
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Like I don't know, like that whole argument of like separating the art from the artist, like when can you do it, when can you not do it? You know what I mean?
I mean, well, as far as I know, he didn't do anything. There wasn't like anything like reprehend, like beyond
No,
reproach.
but it did feel like because obviously it came out like he had like real like substance abuse issues,
Yeah.
and it did kind of feel like I don't want to keep supporting that by supporting the art. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's weird. Like you don't want to be
Mm.
an enabler, but you also are like. But I kind of like the band. But I was always on that. Like I kind of like them. I kind of don't. Then that album came out. I was like, well, whatever. I'll always have Chuck, and I haven't listened to them until again this week. Kind of like you. I didn't
Mm.
do full listens of the last two albums, but I had like a little bit of the latest one. And I was like, well, this is pretty
I was
neat.
gonna
I need to
say
go back and
you'll
listen.
really like them.
So yeah, Brian. Any thoughts or anything you want
Uh,
to interject with?
I listened to Underclass Hero a lot when it came out too.
Right?
Um, yeah, I don't know. It was way different than Chuck. And initially, like I didn't like it at all. Um, but having it play in the car, like on my drives to school and to work and all that, it started to grow on me a little bit. And it was like, oh, it's a different sound, you know. And there are a couple songs I actually do like. Uh, the like Best of Me's pretty good. Um, I forget what other songs there are, but like there are a couple songs like My Poubelle is another one I like. It's just short and fun. Um, but overall, like if I want to listen to some 41, I want the harder stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, me
I would
too.
say
Which is
oh,
odd.
go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was gonna say like from that album, like March of the Dogs or Speak of the Devil, like there are some ones
Oh,
that I will
Speed the Devil's pretty good.
I'll remember. But what were you saying, Dave?
I was gonna say too because I usually most people think of Sum 41 as like a quote unquote pop punk band,
Hmm.
but I kind of think of them more as like a little bit of like punk and thrash. You know what I mean? Like they're kind of not. They don't lean. Well, maybe in the beginning they leaned very pop punk, but now they're not. I don't know if you can still call them pop punk. What
I
do you
don't
think,
think
Dan?
so.
Because you and I have had many a long
Oh
discussion
yeah.
about.
We have, and Sean and I have too. That's how they came up. Like you can tell like they definitely came up with a huge pop punk influence, especially from the song that I picked that's on here, which is Makes No Difference. And like honestly, for me, Makes No Difference and What I Believe, you could probably swap those two out because they're so same sonically and as far as like how the music goes. But I think that whole like the thing that got them signed or their very first album called Half Hour of Power is like a great prelude to All
All
Killer
killer,
No
no
Filler.
filler.
Like because you can pretty much tell where they want their sound to go. And they kind of toy, like you could tell their idols were hair metal bands, and like they really really loved and respected metal for a long time, but it didn't come out until Chuck. And I do think Chuck is probably their best, most well-rounded album, but like especially it's one of those things where I'm sure you guys know, and like thinking about it many many years later, like you have the sound that got you famous versus the sound you want to play, and then you have all these other influences coming in on you where it's like, oh, do we keep making more of what we did? Do we do we change it up? Like how much creative freedom do we have versus how much pressure do we have from a label or producers or X, Y, and Z? So it's like until you get like those old school behind the music or something like that, sometimes these are questions you'll never know. So
It's interesting because it's like, because even on like the album, Does This Look Infected? Like
mhm.
you can tell there, especially more than All Killer Nerf Filler, there's like like a tinge of metal in that album, whereas like Chuck unabashedly has metal in it, which is like, it makes you think, was like, you got to think of, if that's the case, the band did have like ultimate creative freedom with the label.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And then now like Sum 41 isn't as big as they were. It's just the nature of the beast. So now they're just kind of doing whatever the hell they want to do, like the music they feel like making. So it's interesting. Anyways, Pieces versus Screaming Bloody Murder, and it's only fair that we let our esteemed guest go first and
Ooh.
talk us into what do you think about these two songs, and ultimately what's your choice to move forward.
So Pieces versus Screaming Bloody Murder. Like Pieces is it, I would say it's their only hit that's not a true through and through rock song. Like this would be their power ballad,
Yeah.
as it were. Like I think it's a great song as far as like, especially in the middle of Chuck, where you don't really expect to hear something like really heartfelt, really like soul searching from Derek, and like saying like I'm he's, and especially like you said leading into later things on in his life, maybe he was like a small cry for help in this song. It's very well done, it's very effective. But that being said, I think I have to go Screaming Bloody Murder,
Mm.
because it's one of those songs where it was, and like we talked about, like going a little bit from Chuck to Underclass Hero, and then it's kind of like, oh well, I guess they're going to be a pop punk band now because that's what they are. And then I don't know if this was the first. I think the first song they put out was Scumfuck, before the actual album of Screaming Bloody Murder came out. But like, I liked Screaming Bloody Murder from like the first time I heard it because it just had that intensity, and it's like you could tell where they're really starting to find their groove and be like, oh, this is the sound they want to be going for further on down the road. So I like Pieces, but like I will listen to Screaming Bloody Murder a lot more than I'll listen to Pieces.
Brian?
Oh, this one actually is a little tough for me because Chuck is like my favorite album from Sum 41. I would listen to it on repeat all the time, and Pieces is one that does stand out, like you were saying, Dan. And it's like you listen to it in a specific time of your life where like now that we're older, you look back on it, you're like you feel very nostalgic for it. And that's what I feel about Pieces, right? It was a very specific time in my life where certain things were going on, and this one kind of really hit the feels. Um, but listening to Screaming Bloody Murder this week for the first time in a while, I don't know, it hit different, and it's one that I feel like I'm gonna go back to again and again moving forward. So I think, even though it hurts, I'm gonna have to go with Screaming Bloody Murder.
Wow. Out of all the people. I mean, it doesn't matter. Screaming Bloody Murder goes forward regardless of what. But I'll talk about both Pieces. Like, no pun intended. But Pieces was it is one of those weird songs that does stand out because it's not heavy. It's not rockish. You know what I mean? It's very much like a soft ballad, for lack of a better term. It is very like personal, and I kind of love it for that sense because it's like it's very like it stands out amongst all their other like hard hitting songs. Um, I didn't listen to Scream Bloody Murder till this week. The first thing I thought when I heard it was like, this kind of reminds me of My Chem a little bit, especially that intro.
Mm.
It was giving me My Chem vibes. So
Mm.
So to me, like the more original sounding thing in terms of their discography was Pieces. So I probably would have voted for Pieces just because it's so different. But
Ah.
that would have been me. That being said, Screaming Bloody Murder is a banger. So I need to go listen to that whole album. And apparently I need to go and listen to Underclass Hero too because apparently it grows on you.
It does grow on you, but it's almost like an earworm. Like I think it will grow on you begrudgingly. Like I think you'll listen to it and then it'll be like, this got stuck in my head. Fuck, I like this album now. Like it'll be like a thing that happens like 4 weeks later.
Yeah. Well, alrighty. So Dan, you can choose the next round and then choose who you want to talk about it first. So
Okay.
we have while Brian's figuring it out, we have Still Waiting versus Screaming Bloody Murder, Fat Lip versus We're All to Blame,
Mhm.
The Hell Song versus 88, and In Too Deep versus Makes No Difference.
I'll go down just because I know Brian is he's still tweaking this. So
Yeah,
I'll go lower and I'll go to the opposite to give him a little bit of room. I want Biscuits. I want you to talk about In Too Deep versus Makes No Difference.
Alrighty, In Too Deep versus Makes No Difference. So Makes No Difference was like your song, right? If I remember.
That was the one I picked. And had you asked me, like, even now, like pretty much listening to them most of the day, I'd probably have a different opinion. Makes no difference. Is just, well, I'll get to it when I get to it. But you talk about it.
But yeah, so like we were mentioning, like this is like off their first like quote unquote major release, Half Hour of Power,
Mhm.
and it's like classic quintessential pop punk song, right?
Mhm.
It's got the four chords, it's got that rhythm, and it's got the chunky. It's like the same four chords again, but it's all just palm muted, right? But it's very like it's quintessential pop punk, and it's what most people probably would think of when they think of Sum 41's like, oh yeah, that's their sound, right?
Mhm.
Whereas like In Too Deep, arguably their second greatest hit ever, according to Spotify and Apple Music. And what I like about that song too, it's like as juxtaposed to Makes No Difference. It's kind of soft, the clean guitars in the beginning. It's kind of like a happy sounding song, for lack of a better term. Whereas like Makes No Difference, a little more aggressive, a little more on that punk edge. And it again, this is the part where I kind of like about Sum 41 too, where it kind of interweaves like clean, slightly slower rhythmic music sonically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like In Too Deep is like just like a pop. It leans towards the pop more than the punk, whereas it Makes No Difference leans into the punk more than the pop. In terms of what I like more, I like them both for different reasons. It's essentially, do I want to lean pop or punk?
Well, what do you want?
I think
What do you want people to think of you?
That's what you shouldn't ask someone when they're making a decision.
this song will define who you are as a person. Choose wisely.
You can only listen to one forever.
All right, this is where it came down to. This is where my head went. Makes No Difference to me sonically. Reminds me a lot of Damn It from Blink 182. It's
Sure.
kind of got that same like structure, the same, not the same chord progression, but kind of the same chord progression, different key. Whereas In Too Deep just kind of sticks out a little bit more for me. Like, yeah, it was a hit and it was super popular. It was all over the radio when we were growing up, but there's a reason for that. It's because it's a very, very great song. So I'm gonna go with In Too Deep. I'm a pop kid. It's over for me. There's no edge to me anymore.
Until we get back to the metal songs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
All right, Dan.
Dan.
So, and this was Makes No Difference was my pick versus In Too Deep. I think we also can't go any further talking about In Too Deep. We have to acknowledge the gloriousness that was that music video. That was like the high dive competition. That was so much. I saw that video so much when it was first came out and whatnot. And it was one of those ones that like, it was cheeky. It was funny. It was kind of innocent in its own way, but like, it was just, I never got sick of watching that video, which was kind of nice. And especially off of All Killer No Filler, like that's not really an exaggeration for that album, where it's like they had I want to say there were four. I know we talked about three already with Fat Lip, In Too Deep, and Motivation, but I want to say there was one other single that came out off of that, but I can't remember what it was. I might have
I
to look
think
it up
you're
later.
right.
But makes no difference. Makes no difference. Like I said earlier, like it feels a little interchangeably with What I Believe, because it's just they have a couple of songs on that album on Half Hour Power that like just they're they really ring from that, like it's one of those ones that like not only are they a song like a quintessential pop punk song, but it just holds a sonic memory, you know what I mean, where it's like you remember the first time you're hearing it and it takes you back to whenever you were listening to it. For that reason, I was so close to telling you it's What We're All About, because I kind of wanted to talk about that song too, where they just that's how they almost got pigeonholed into that rap rock genre that was really big around the time they came out. And it was on the Spider-Man soundtrack, for those of you who remember.
One or two. That was one, right?
One. It was on one, yeah, because they had another one. They had a video where they were doing their quintessential jumping, but like the camera rotated and they're playing at a concert, and it turns out the reveal is that they're playing on the ceiling like they're Spider-Man. So yeah, fun stuff. But because they re-recorded it for that album. I think I'm gonna make it hard on Brian. I'm gonna say Makes No Difference because it was my pick. I love In Too Deep, but I also want to keep this interesting. Like In Too Deep is good, but like there are definitely other songs on this list that I like more. And like I feel like just slightly, if David B's a pop kid, I'm gonna be the punk kid, and I'll pick Makes No Difference.
Fair. You are a punk,
Oh.
Brian.
It's true.
Yeah, I just want to echo the music video was a big part of my life. Like I downloaded that music video on LimeWire and I watched that over and over again.
Not Kazaa.
Not Kazaa. I think Hit or Miss, right? But You Found Glory. That one was from Kazaa. But In Too Deep was from LimeWire for sure. Yeah. And and the guitar solo in Too Deep, it's something it's emblazoned in my mind, you know. It just
him coming in and out of the water. I remember that now.
Yeah, just coming like just he dives in and he comes out and his guitar solo. It is
it's
fun. It's
that
cheeky,
first tinge of like metal from them too, with the guitar solo in a punk rock song. What?
Like a real guitar solo, not like a 3-note
Mm-hmm.
guitar solo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's like In Too Deep, and then I think that's Pain for Pleasure, right, off this album was also one that like you can see, oh, like that's the music that they like, as opposed to the music that they're playing. But then I listened to Makes No Difference for the first time in a long time this week, and it got me curious into like listening to the whole album, right, the Half Hour Power. And there's a couple songs, like I think Summer was one that stood out to me. I was like, I do remember this one. This one was a banger too. And I feel like if I'm going to listen to Sum 41, the kind of music I want to listen to is probably closer to Makes No Difference than it is In Too Deep.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with Makes No Difference.
That's an upset, ladies and gentlemen. So rest of the show, Brian, how are things? We got this from here. Since we're just going to be lockstep in sync.
That's honestly, I mean, it's a banger. Like Half Hour Power is like, it stands up to that name legitimately. It is just a half hour of just like blazing punk rock in your face. So I'm not mad at that.
Oh, I know. I'm just teasing you.
Shut up, Dan. Anyways. Shut up, Meg. Brian, while you're fidgeting around, choose the next one we are gonna fight over to the death.
Yeah, I don't understand what is going on here.
It's okay. It's good TV.
Yeah, it's just technology being like, haha,
Something's
wrong and I won't tell you. Ha 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 ha.
Right. It's a good thing we're not like watching you try to code something. Like, my code works. I have no idea why. My code doesn't work. I have no idea why.
Right.
That would suck if that was
There we go.
I've literally heard that from people who like do codes. So or like do coding. Like a lot of times they just don't know what's going on.
Let's just
it's
move
like
up.
one number. Yeah. All right. Hell Song versus 88 and
Yes. I
full
guess I'll go first
disclosure.
on this one.
Yeah, go for it.
You were saying
I
full
was gonna say
disclosure.
Hell Song was the choice of our other guest who couldn't be here today. That was gonna be it. Anyways, go for it.
Mhm. Yeah. I think Hell Song is actually number 5 on Spotify.
Yeah,
I-
yeah, it is.
Yeah. And then my pick is 88.
Hmm.
So I'll talk about Hell Song first. Hell Song is from the
Does this look
Does This Look
infected?
Infected, right? Yeah. For some reason that was an album that I skipped when it came out. I don't know why. Like I loved All Killer No Filler, but the This Look Infected. I remember getting a burned copy from a buddy of mine, and then never really listening to it. I only came back to it later on after I was kind of disappointed by um, the Underclass
Underclass?
Hero. Yeah, and song is definitely one that like stands out. Hell Song, Still Waiting. Those two are I think my two favorites from that album. But 88 comes from Chuck. Like I said, that's my favorite album. Um, and 88 is my favorite song from that album just because it has a little bit of that like the softness towards the beginning and then it just goes full on metal and then it kind of has this weird like abstract sort of ending to it. And I really enjoy that. I remember I had shown this song to someone and she did not like it. She was like, "It's too aggressive. I don't like the way like you look when you're banging your head to it. Like it makes me nervous. I don't know." And then now she's my ex girlfriend. So
This is the song
so
that
that
ended it, huh?
yeah. So that's exactly how much this song means to me, right?
And now we know why Brian has the Sum 41 88 litmus test for potential cheating.
Exactly.
There
If
you
you don't
go.
like this song, it's not going to work.
I mean,
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
You're better off, sir.
it's true.
Yeah. But
That song will always be there for
but
you.
also yes. And also this is one song that when I watched it live, like it's game over, right? You're in it. You're like this is one like if you're in the back of the room, you're just gonna make your way towards that pit no matter what.
I feel it.
Yeah. So obviously my pick's gonna be 88.
Ugh. Dan, you go.
I think you should go.
I think you're the guest, so you should go.
Okay. So the Hell Song in 88, the Hell Song it's the first song off of Does This Look Infected as well as their follow-up to All Killer No Filler. And but it was their second single. So the first one, which is Still Waiting, which we'll talk about in a bit, it starts off with some great jokes, and I like what they did with that. But the Hell Song was like pretty simple, and I think they shot it for like under $500, where it's literally just them like playing with toys and like having these things that like knock everything over and like disrupt all the toys. And I think the Hell Song is like as aggressive as they got on Does This Look Infected. Like I can't remember if they had any particular songs that went harder than that, and like for them to make that song really successful, I think that might have like given them that kind of encouragement and been like, this is how we a little bit more of how we want to sound like, because you can still vividly remember that album starting off with a guy hawking a loogie, and that's how that song starts, and then it goes into their very like quintessential like just their lead lines, like not even solos, but their lead lines are like really hooky. So it starts with that, and then getting into the like part of me wanna gray, like it's very very earwormy. But I think, and I mean, kind of assuming what Dave's going to vote for here too, but I think I'm in the 88 camp as well, to where it's like you can't discount how much better musicians they are by the time they get to Chuck and 88. Like you said, going from the light, going from the like, even it gets kind of ethereal by the end of that song, where it's like, oh, I can't even remember the line, but I can hear like the kind of echoey vocals that they're doing at the very end of it. And there's a reason why. I also remember getting an album shortly after Chuck came out, and they did a live album, and it was called Go Chuck Yourself. And there's a reason why this song became one of the ones that they started ending shows with, because it's like, it's interesting because you know, and I'm sure you guys know, like building a set list is going to be different than building an album list. And like you kind of have to decide where you're going to put some songs. And I think not only them ending the album with this song, but ending live shows with this song too, kind of shows that the strength that they think it has as a band. And it's one of those things that like, I don't want to say I regret, but I'm sad I didn't give Chuck a bigger shot when it first came out, because it was one of those things like we were talking about, like you being possessive of bands, where I'm like, oh, this isn't really how Sum 41 sounds. I don't know how I feel about it. And now, like X number of years later, I'm like, I'm an idiot, because this is a great album, and that's a great. And even when I would like listen to my computer or my iPod on shuffle, and that song would come up, I would never skip it, and then I'd be like, oh, that's on Chuck, huh? Forget about it for another 3 years, like. So yeah, I am also going 88. So it doesn't matter what you say, Dave, but go ahead.
Moving on.
Next round.
I mean, what can I say? Both of you guys haven't said. I do think Hellsong is kind of like that precursor to what Chuck was going to be, because it is kind of like, it has a tinge of metal in it. It's got that guitar solo in the middle of it. It's got a little bit of like that rhythmic kind of pulse that metal tends to do, while still having like that chordy punk progressions in it with the guitars and stuff, and like that hooky, like part of me wanna great, you know what I mean? The hooky pop punk chorus. So it's like, it's very like in the middle of who they were known as and where they were gonna go with Chuck. You know what I mean? Like you can clearly tell this song, it's like you said too, is probably like the heaviest song off this album, quote unquote. It's really like that precursor of like where they're going to lean towards more in Chuck. That being said, I always love when songs kind of mix and match genres that up to that point you wouldn't really consider being of the same. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't be able to put them together in a song. So I might have leaned towards Hellsong a little bit more. That being said, 88 musically, I mean, dude, it's just it's like the roller coaster, and it's just like climbing up for that big fall, but it's just, you just keep going up, literally. So for like 5 minutes, and then finally, wah! It's just one big ass drop into that quiet, creepy ending. And yeah, I love 88 too, but yeah. All right, we're going next song. I'm not mad at it. I like both for different reasons. Obviously, 88 is way more metal than Hellsong, whereas like Hellsong is more pop punk. 88 is really like hardcore, leaning into like the metal perspective of what they were going to be. But they're both bangers. I like them both. I'd listen to them both over and over again on repeat. So I'm not mad at it.
For sure.
Alrighty, Fat Lip versus We're All to Blame, and it's only fair that I go first because I made you all go first. I feel like this was probably the hardest one for me because I chose We're All to Blame and Fat Lip. I mean, Fat Lip, we all know it, right? It's the song that made them a household name. It's like this song came on the radio, came out on MTV, and all of a sudden the whole world knew who Sum 41 was. Like when this song came out when we were growing up, you couldn't turn on the radio without listening to this song. It was just constantly playing on the radio. Same thing with MTV. You couldn't turn on MTV without hearing this song. You couldn't like watch any like teen movie without hearing this song. You know what I mean? This song was fucking everywhere when we were growing up, and rightfully so. It's a catchy, hooky song. It's got that pop punk rock elements in it. It's got the rappiness in it, right? Which is like, you know what I mean? Kind of, you can clearly see like the Beastie Boy influence they had with that song. That being said, We're All to Blame to me is probably their most eclectic song, but it works. I'm usually very picky when it comes to like dropping tempos and dropping time dynamics and just kind of switching in between songs. But this song does it, to me personally, so cleverly and so well that it works, where it's like it starts off with the metalness of like super rhythmic guitars, super chunky guitars, and then it kind of goes into that the chorus is clean, like it brings you in high, drops it, but it's like the way they drop it, it's still the same key, still the same chord progression. Technically it's still the same tempo, it's just half step of the tempo, and it works. To me, it personally works how they interweave between like clean metal, kind of power ballad metal solo, and then the ending was just pure ballad. I think was very brave of them to make this a single. Was very brave of them, and I applaud them for doing this song. This song to me is like them really fucking around with the genre and with structure of what a pop song or a pop rock song should sound like. So for me, obviously, it's We're All to Blame.
Dan, has David ever told you the story of our night with Fat Lip?
No.
Well, do you want to share it, Dave?
What are you talking about? I don't remember this. Oh no, am I about to be outed again?
No, it's the karaoke night.
Oh shit, that's right. Oh well, karaoke. We were very drunk, and Brian
We were
was like,
at
we're gonna do Fat Lip," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, man, whatever, we'll go." And it just we waited. It felt like an eternity before they called us up. We waited a long time, but then once we started like realizing we're about to be next, we're like, "Oh God, what have we done? We're not going. We're not going." And then I think Brian gave us fake names, so he was
Yes.
like, "He was like, if you want to drop out, bro, they don't know our real names." So I gave
That's
us
funny.
fake names, but
Yes, I was
ultimately,
I was Nathaniel, and then David was Gregorio.
yeah.
Those are some great fake names.
And finally our turn came and the DJ kept calling us and we just kept looking at each other like there was another friend who shall not be named, and she was like, "Guys, fucking go. We're being little bitches." And we were like, "Fuck it, man." And we go up there and we butcher the song so bad. B no sit all what would you oh shit, that's your line. Heavy metal and bullets.
So, because
Oh,
Fat
that's
Lip,
great.
when you're sober, it's a mouthful, right? It's a tongue
Yeah.
twister.
Yeah.
Fat
When you're
Lip when you're
drunk.
drunk, blackout drunk, right?
It's impossible.
There's no chance.
You got to
Yeah.
figure that that's probably how Sum 41 was playing in a lot of nights too.
Oh,
Sober.
No, drunk. But it's so funny enough. You were mentioning that. I also have a Fat Lip story, but it's similar to where I remember being in high school and the song came out, and I was in a drama class with a friend of mine, and this shows you how far I've come. I know, Dave, you'll laugh at this. It shows you how far I've come even as a musician, but we had to perform a song. Like everyone pretty much had to perform a song or do some sort of performance in front of the class. Like I think it was a Friday or once every Friday. And so we got to go rehearse this and we were going to do Fat Lip, but I talked him out of it because I didn't want him to tune to drop D because I didn't know what that entailed. So I'm like, no, don't do it. It's fine. We wound up doing My Own Worst Enemy instead.
Ultimately though, that was probably a better choice.
I mean, he was also a singer in a band, so like it would have been fine, but still.
Yeah, but Fat Lip, does it have singing in it though?
I mean, he would have been more involved because it was just him and like a tiny amp, and then I pretty much sung the whole thing. So
Because you don't know us. I think that was like the one part we nailed.
Yeah, just a
did you
beginning.
like point to each other? B you
Because
yeah,
don't-
exactly.
Yeah.
No, we both did it at the same time. Because you don't know. Oh, it was embarrassing, but it was hilarious. So,
That sounds hilarious and embarrassing and awesome.
anyways, if we ever do that song again, it will be better. We will be better.
You'll have to. You have to. You have to redeem yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
One day.
Redemption, Fat Lip. One day. All right. Who wants to go next, Fat Lip, or we're all to blame? Brian, you want to go next? We'll just go down
Sure.
the line. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go next. It's like obviously Fat Lip holds many stories for all of us. And it's a big part of my youth. It's I guess has somewhat informed my identity, right, moving forward. But we're all to blame. It's to me, it's like it's art, right? It's as arty as like a pop punk band could be at the time of like that era. And so when I first heard it, like it's like, oh, like you can do this, like you're allowed to do this. This is fun. I love it. It's yeah, and then the lyrics also like for a certain like teenager of a certain time, like it hits home a little bit. And so I think I'm having to go with "We're All to Blame" also.
That
So
means
fuck
Dan's
me.
opinion does not matter.
Does
So
not
we will
matter.
move on. No, but ultimately, Dan, we're all to blame moves on. But what would have been your choice and why?
Between it's so like that's why when you told me we were doing like a smaller bracket as well, I was like, ooh, that means that we're gonna have a lot of really hard decisions really early.
Mhm.
That's the way we
Um,
like to do it here on
and this
Some
would be one
41.
of them as well because it was. I still think to some extent, like you were, like Brian, like you were saying, like Fat Lip is such an ingrained, like it put them on the map. It's so like it's one of those things that like when they play shows, they have to play Fat Lip. But then
Mhm.
we still haven't talked about the other one, but We're All to Blame. Even with the video feels that song very much feels like a sequel to Still Waiting because like just how they're shot. Where Still Waiting was like their video was like almost like a joke, and we'll get to that in a second. But like We're All to Blame, they basically did it like on solid gold, and like you were saying that song is art. I think it actually gains something in the music video format because I remember that very vividly, and them doing like the zoom in and zoom out, and like they have all the like hundreds of them like going into the background with like him screaming like sacrifice, and it is somehow one of their hardest songs ever and one of their softest songs ever at the same time. And
Yeah.
it's like you said, it still works. Like, and I think that was their flagship song off of Chuck. And it's kind of like, well, if you can enjoy this song, you'll enjoy Chuck. So I mean, I think gun to my head, it probably would have been We're All to Blame for me as well. Cause like as much as I like Fat Lip, it's like I like Fat Lip so much, but it's also one of those things where it's like they kind of grew out of that song.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
and like Fat Lip is a fun song, but when you put it up against like what Brian said, like the the sheer like artistic balls of We're All to Blame, like there's no competition in terms of like structure, sonically, like how it's like they're juxtaposing like extreme metal with like soft ballad like instrumentals in the middle of it too, and it works seamlessly, which is like so rare because usually when bands try to do that, they always do like a cheap like transition of just like pausing or just you know what I mean, like
Mhm.
immediately what I can remember is like, and I like this band, but this song I forget the name of the song, but A Day to Remember released a song where it's literally that. It's just like heaviness, pause, softness, pause, heaviness. I'm like, I hate it. It literally sounds like you glued two songs together. You know what I mean?
As
Whereas
opposed to this making it flow.
as opposed to
Mhm.
this song where they make it flow, like it makes sense the way they interweaved it. It wasn't just a cheap pause to get into it. It's a transition to get into it, which I appreciate. So musically speaking.
Yeah, the only time they merge is near the very end of the song, right before it gets quiet for the end, which is like earned at that point to where it's like you have the
Yeah.
heaviness and then you have the lightness in the chorus, but then when you get to that final chorus, when they're like, we're
Chorus.
gonna do a
It's
little
both.
hybrid,
Yeah.
and then it
And
ends very calm.
Mhm.
it's such a good mix mesh of like their A section and their B section, and it's like you said too, it's earned, and then they end it with like pure softness, and I'm just like, and like falsetto singing at the end of it too. I'm just like, this song is so ballsy, and then they were like, that's our fucking single. It's such a, you know
Deal
what I
with
mean,
it.
like yeah, the tenacity of a band to be that sure of themselves too is like is to be appreciated. So, alrighty, boys, Still Waiting versus Screaming Bloody Murder. And I think it's only fair we let Dan finish up our round one brackets.
To start it. This is the one like I remember very vividly the video for Still Waiting, and they immediately start poking fun because it was right around the emergence of the bands like the Hives and the White Stripes,
Mm.
and they're talking to a record executive who's like, all these number bands, Blink 182, Green Day 75, they're not a thing anymore. And so I almost made my name Green Dan 75, which would have been a really obscure joke. Um, and then it was the Sums, and then they go into Still Waiting, and so that was their like comeback for like all the bands that were coming around in that time. And like I said, Still Waiting kind of felt like the Hell song was a little bit harder, but Still Waiting still felt very much like their poppier stuff. And but it was, you could see where the transition was coming. Like you could see it coming down the road. And putting that up against Screaming Bloody Murder is really interesting for me. Because I like Still Waiting. I'm trying to think, because it's a lot of this is like talking it out and like basically working out your process as you're going through it, is like what resonates more literally in my memory and in my brain, to where it's like I can still hear Still Waiting and I can hear Screaming Bloody Murder, but it's one of those ones of like which one impacts me more. And it's slightly, I'd say Screaming Bloody Murder is at a slight disadvantage, only because that song's only been out for about 10 years, whereas Still Waiting is probably pushing 16, 17, if I had to guess. I don't know the exact times or the exact releases. Was it 04?
2002?
2002.
It was 2. Damn it. So yeah,
it's almost,
close to 20.
It's almost pushing 20, yeah.
Man.
Whereas Scream Bloody Murder is 10.
It was 10. I thought it was 11,
Yeah.
but it's still the same. It's just still really close. I'm going Screaming Bloody Murder, because I think I'll longevity. I think I'll want to listen to that song more than Still Waiting.
Brian?
You go first.
All right, fair. You can close it off. Listening to Still, again, Screaming Bloody Murder is super fresh in my mind, to where it's not ingrained in it just yet. Whereas Still Waiting, even though like, yeah, we've all kind of agreed that Does This Look Infected wasn't like an album we paid super close attention to. I like that Still Waiting is also like, again, like that weird transitional song. Whereas like it's very like the hook and the intro is very pop punk, but that verse is very like thrash metal. And like it's again, it's like Sum 41 showing you the tendencies of like, yeah, we like punk, but we're also like metal kids. So you can kind of see that, again, like you can kind of see where Chuck is coming from. That being said, Screaming Bloody Murder, I feel like sonically is a bit more of a banger for me personally, even though it's like it might be recency bias or whatever. I do feel like that song sonically works a little bit better than Still Waiting.
Right? It's hard.
But I like Still Waiting as well. But it's like,
All right, what's your choice?
gun to my head. You know what? Fuck it. I want to make it hard on Brian too. I'm gonna choose Still Waiting.
Damn it.
They're both good songs though.
Yes.
That's what hurts
Yes.
about it. They're actually fun songs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's like you guys were saying, Still Waiting. I can hear it in my head. Like it comes like that, right? Is you hear the title and you can just jump right into all the lyrics. But Screaming Bloody Murder, it's a little unfair, I think, to put it up against Still Waiting because of where they were in their careers when Screaming Bloody Murder came out. Because Screaming Bloody Murder was 2011, so it's like 11, 12 years into like their career as a band together. And so you would hope that they are better musicians after that amount of time.
coming off of Underclass Hero too, right? This album.
Yeah.
Right.
It was.
Because even between Underclass Hero and Screaming Bloody Murder was like 4 years difference. So they had those 4 years to like kind of figure out what they wanted to do, where they wanted to go, what works best for them as a band. And I think Screaming Bloody Murder is probably better for it. All that time to self-reflect and figure stuff out. And I think it sounds better, and I probably would listen to it more than Still Waiting. So I'm going to go with Screaming Bloody Murder.
All right, good.
It's what you really wanted, but you just wanted to make it hard.
Yeah. But I feel like we all tend. It's safe to say we're all leaning towards Sum 41's more metal-y sounds than their
Harder
more
sounds,
punk rock
yeah.
sounds. Yeah.
Yeah, the only one that made it through that's not that would be Makes No Difference. But
Makes no
between
difference.
Yeah.
in the first round, that's the harder of the two choices, is Makes No Difference over In Too Deep.
So I think it's only fair that Dan goes first. For
I don't know.
Makes
I
No
don't know why
Difference.
you keep saying that. You put me on the show just to torture me. Well, since I
Yeah.
already started,
That's the
since
point of the show, man.
I already started talking about it, we might as well stay there and make it the matchup Makes No Difference versus 88. And wow, I don't know if we could have picked two different
Yeah.
songs from their catalog to pit up against each other. Because I'm even looking at the semifinal matchup, and I'm like, wow, okay, so there's nothing off of All Killer No Filler, nothing off of Does This Look Infected. There's two Chuck, there's one Screaming Bloody Murder, and there's 1 half hour of Power. So apparently we are All Killer No Filler out. So just get that album out of here.
I mean, but if we're being honest to who we are, it's not our favorite album. Like,
yeah, I mean,
it's just not.
It's one of the ones where it's like,
but
yes,
it's important for sure, but like in terms of like their discography, it's not up there for us. I feel like collectively.
So this is interesting too. So I'm trying to think between 88 and Makes No Difference, because man, like younger me goes Makes No Difference all day of the week. When Chuck first comes out, like even versus 88, even knowing that it's probably a better song, like Makes No Difference is one of those things that just resonates with me, of a certain era of like high school me, essentially.
Yeah.
And then 88 being like a much more heavier, nuanced metal song that like they're closing out their album with, they're closing out shows with. But I think just this is a little bit for the sake of the show, because I could, this is like 50-50 for me. I'm gonna say Makes No Difference because I want to see what you guys say, and I got hunches that I might be overruled, but I'm fine with that because I want a conversation. So I'm saying Makes No Difference.
I have a feeling I'll be a tiebreaker, and I'll gladly be the tiebreaker. So I'm gonna let Brian go next.
To just say 88.
Yeah.
88. Yeah, it's I have to make the breakup worth it. So 88. But yeah, no, I mean, Makes No Difference has a sound, right? That if you're in the mood for that specific sound, Makes No Difference, it's going to be in the playlist. And if you're in the mood for a different sound, 88 is going to be in that playlist. So it's really hard to like compare them. But on a personal level, what am I going to listen to on any given Wednesday? It's going to be 88.
Just hit that nail home. I know you're waiting for it.
Fuck.
Do it, Biscuits. Really?
Wow,
this is difficult for you?
It actually
This is the first-
legitimately.
first time you've been speaking.
This is where I'm coming from. Legitimately, like 88 is off of my favorite album from Sum 41, but also Makes No Difference is like a fun song too, and like what Brian said is true. You kind of have to be in a mood for 88, whereas like I feel like Makes No Difference is more of a quick. It's like a little like Kit Kat bar, you know, just like delicious, real quick, right? Whereas like 88 is like a very like
burger or steak, like
it's like a very eclectic like spinach salad. Like you normally don't like spinach, but someone made it very good. You know what I'm saying? Legitimately, that's where my head's at. I'm like,
wow,
this is legitimately hard because I like both for different reasons.
Yeah.
I don't know if 88 is a spinach salad. I think it's more like a steak or a burger.
Or it's more of an avocado toast. God damn it, guys. And I want everyone to know I'm listening to both in my
are you really?
cans. Yeah, I'm going back
That's
and
funny.
forth because I really don't. Oh God.
The only other thing too, I'll throw my thumb on the scale a little bit, and one of the reasons too I went Makes No Difference is all 4 other songs are fucking like bangers. They're metal based. So that was one of the
Yeah.
reasons too why I'm like, I think, and this is again hindsight from what I was just saying, like makes no difference to me. That's why I like keeping that little variety there.
Yeah, you want to represent all of Sum 41.
Sure.
Sure,
All
I
right,
get that.
this is where I'm leaning towards. They came from pop punk, right? So we
Hmm.
like all filler, no whatever, right? And
Mm.
then Half Hour Power, but then their later discographies veer so far away from that that it almost makes you feel like they themselves are like removing themselves from that too. Does that make sense? Like sonically.
Sure.
So that being said, in my mindset, trying to like respect the wishes of the band, I'm gonna go 88.
Whatever you need to tell yourself.
Whatever I need to
Yeah.
just move this along. But that was legitimately really hard because 88 is a fun song. Oh man, I might regret that. Whatever. Let's move on and scream bloody murder and we're all to blame. It is what it is. And I'm gonna go first because you guys made me break the tie. I'm choosing "We're All to Blame." Like it was my song. I think it's the most eclectic song. It's the most artistic song. Boom. Go.
Done.
Paper, rock, scissors. Who goes next? I don't care.
I'll go next. I think that if you had asked me about this specific matchup before we started, I think it would have been Screaming Bloody Murder, like without question. Just because it is fresher to me, and so like it's more interesting. But then hearing David talk about "We're All to Blame," the things that it does, it's like now I'm rethinking like, oh, this might be like their greatest song. Well, we're here to find out. But I can hear it in my head, and it's like, oh, no, this is a good song. "We're All to Blame" is really, really good. But then I go back to Screaming Bloody Murder, and I think that album in of itself is a little underrated. A lot of people just like they don't talk about it when they talk about Sub 41. I think as a whole, Screaming Bloody Murder is actually a pretty good album. And so I think I would like to make it interesting. Just pick Screaming Bloody Murder.
You asshole. You don't even like that album that much, you liar.
I do today.
Just to spite
Well,
you.
Dan,
Why does this always happen to me?
it happened to me last round, so stop.
That's true. We're All to Blame versus Screaming Bloody Murder. And Screaming Bloody Murder really making a great run here, coming from the play-in game. Yeah. Knocking out two bigger songs on the way here. And then We're All to Blame being arguably their most eclectic song. But there's actually bits of We're All to Blame in Screaming Bloody Murder, because you get a little bit of that like kind of slower. Did you say it earlier, Dave, that you said like the song kind of starts off like a little bit MCR-y, or were we talking about a different one?
That's what I said.
Yeah.
No, that's what I said. Yeah.
Because I can kind of see that now too, where it seems a little bit more. I already said the word ethereal, so I don't really want to reuse it, but it's a lot lighter, and it starts off with like some nice notes, like where they're not going too hard into it, and then you get the hard lead line coming in and whatnot. And then We're All to Blame with all the layering that they're doing, and then the starting and the stopping and again, I feel like you felt last time going between 88 and Makes No Difference.
I feel like I'm about to be very heartbroken with you two.
It's possible, but it's also like, and then looking ahead too, I do for a little bit of variety, and I think I am going to break your heart, but I also want to see a little bit more variety, and I want to make the final really interesting, because I don't want two Chuck songs in the final. So I am going to go Screaming Bloody Murder just to keep that Cinderella story going. And because I keep hearing, the one thing that I can't get out of my head is the line that leads you into the chorus with the "tear me open," I believe, and like just powering that through. And I love both of those songs, but I'm gonna make it really hard on you and put that in the final. But I know you'll go 88 anyway.
I want to cry. I'm holding it back for the show, but once we go off air, I'm gonna start bawling.
You're gonna weep. That's what you get for taking out Makes No Difference.
You know what? Fair.
Right.
I kind of was hoping to have just a Chuck final. I'm not gonna lie.
I know. I figured. But then it's just like, I can also see you being like, well, we're done. Thanks for everybody for coming. I'm not picking between these two.
No,
Chuck,
I would have. Real talk.
Chuck is the winner.
If we would have gone between We're All to Blame and 88, I still would have probably chosen We're All to Blame.
We're all to blame. Yeah.
I feel. I mean, it doesn't matter now, but I feel like that song, in terms of what it does compared to 88, it's a better song for me personally.
Well, then I'm glad he seeded it this way just to mess with you.
Yeah, this is all Brian's fault ultimately. So shit. Who goes first?
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first since you made me finish
right.
that one. I don't want to get in that last position again.
Fair. Go for it.
But between these two, and I think for me, this is probably where Screaming Bloody Murder Cinderella story ends, because I do default a little bit to the band. I default a little bit to like their faith that they put into 88. And like, even though Screaming Bloody Murder is still a really hard song, I can still see, and having listened to those two most recent albums earlier today, like you can draw a straight line from Chuck and specifically 88 to these last two albums that I listened to. And like, I know Screaming Bloody Murder happened in the meantime, but you can tell that like there's a reason that like they put so much stock in that song too. And I think between the two of them, I do really, really, really enjoy Screaming Bloody Murder, but I think 88 is a better representation of their band as a whole.
Brian? Just say it, Brian.
Yeah, it's going to be 88.
Of course.
Yeah, it's this is one song that whenever it comes on, I know Dave, you said you have to be like in a mood for it. I don't have to be in a specific mood for it. When it comes on, like it's volume maxed out all the time. And
well, you initially said that you have to be in like a mood for it. And
I just meant between 88 it makes no difference. Like if you want to listen to like makes no difference kind of music versus 88 kind of music, like they would both still be in those respective playlists.
You mean that delicious spinach salad that he was talking about?
Or avocado toast.
Or avocado toast, yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. If we're talking about food, both of these songs are steaks. It's just one's a ribeye and one's Wagyu. And 88 is clearly the Wagyu. So yes. I'm going with 88 as well. Clean sweep for 88. There you have it, folks. Yeah. The definitive number one Sum 41 song. Their best song ever. That's it. We declared it. Internet, you can't tell us otherwise. Our word is final and law. Screw what you think. All you need to know, if you've never listened to Sum 41 before, just go listen to 88.
That's it.
That's all you need. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually not mad of it, but I am shocked that's our number one song. Like, legitimately.
I'm almost more shocked that like Fat Lip and In Too Deep didn't even make it out of the first round.
I'm kind of not. I kind of figured like, because especially like of who else we're gonna have here. Because I was talking to this with them earlier. It's like we grew up with those songs, and those songs have been played to death for us so much that we're just kind of like, yeah, we're over it. Like we get it. See, nostalgically, we like it. But
if we throw this to, and we were talking a little bit about this beforehand. If this is a Taking Back Sunday bracket, I'm gonna have a lot harder time keeping some of those early songs out of it. You know what I mean?
I would agree too. Because like I feel like that band compared to Sum 41. Sonically, Taking Back Sunday doesn't really change that much. Whereas like Sum 41 was clearly one thing and evolved into something else by the end of it.
It would be like a more apt comparison might be like Thrice. where Thrice has
Yeah.
gone everywhere over the past 20 years.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. But I am not mad at it. 88 is a good song. I mean, it's like it's a perfect representation of who they are. A little bit of that punk, a lot of that metal, a little bit of that
Mhm.
soft in there too, and it works.
Mhm.
It surprisingly works. Also, the year me and Brian were born is 88, so apropos
That is true.
for this podcast.
Oh, I'm the old guy.
Yeah, you're the old one.
I'm the old guy.
Uh that'll be it, everybody. We did it. We got through it relatively painlessly. I mean, I'm still holding back tears because my song died.
Blood feud.
Um,
Blood feud.
Blood feud. But Dan, the floor is yours. Anything you want to plug? Tell people what you're doing and where they can go find
Oh,
you.
thank you very much. I do have a show over on the Pajukin, which is Ramble On About Movies, which Eric and I talk about movie news. We're at about once every 2 weeks now. That's currently happening on Saturday. That's subject to change depending on schedules. And yeah, I have a newer job, so I have more time, so I can jump on fun panels like this. So I'm excited. And then my handle right down here says at Oh Hi Dan Nye, so you can find me there on the social medias.
Awesome. Brian, anything you want to plug and tell the people where they can find you?
Um, yeah, they can find me on Instagram at Kuno_stars. Um, I mean, I don't post as much as I used to, but the stories have always got some interesting things, whether it's things about my rabbits or it's cooking or whatever music I'm listening to at the moment. Yeah.
Definitely. You can go follow me at DavidBMusic21 on Twitter and Instagram. Also, I have a Twitch, twitch.tv/DavidBMusic. But also, most importantly, the thing I really want to promote is this.
10,000 miles away 未来のことわからない I thought I needed change The Pacific waves could carry me away to an island 新しいどこかへ I fell in love with a girl But she left me so blue
That's right, the debut of the band I'm playing with, The Fate Stay,
Woo!
June 12th on my Twitch channel. Be there. Be there. We'll be playing a lot of originals, a lot of covers, and if we reach our donation goal, a very interesting encore. I won't say it on air, but I'll definitely tell Dan off there.
Damn it. Oh, I'm excited. I'm really excited. I might have to just
So-
pay for all of it.
All right, guys, that'll be it for us. And as always, you can follow this podcast at Speak Freely Pod on Twitter and Instagram. If you haven't yet, click that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, hit that thumbs up or thumbs down if you hated what we did. What's your favorite Sum 41 song? Who cares? Ours is ultimately the decision. That's it. You should have been here earlier. Guys, this was fun. Thank you, Dan. We will definitely have you back on for either Fall Out Boy or for sure Taking Back Sunday.
Oh, that'll
that'll
be fun.
Or both.
or both. We'll just have
Or
a
both.
chaotic Fallout Boy one. Why not? Maybe that one will be the one where we finally go, fuck it, 16 songs. Let's do this for 3 hours.
Oh my God. Yeah. That was, we only did this for a little over an hour. So
Yeah, we gotta do one that's at least 2.5, Brian. And that's probably gonna be Fallout
Yeah.
Boy.
probably.
Alrighty. So
Or,
what we
or
like to
Coldplay.
do? Ooh, no. So what we like to do is we like to try to synchronize a clap at the same time. So we put our hands up.
Oh
to the
boy.
camera. And we go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Never works. Goodbye, everybody.